Welcome back, everyone. We've got our second presentation of the day. So what I'd like to do is to introduce you to my colleague, Gillan Ide. And Gil, hello, Gil. Gil's going to be looking at this question. So to automate or not to automate, that's the key to lean business. That's the question. So Gil, over to you.
Good morning. Welcome to my presentation to automate or not to automate. That is the key to lean business question. Or should that be, is that the key to lean business? This morning, I'll cover through processes around initiating automation within an organization, the whys, the what's the benefit, and who are the key players in the change program. So what does this 50% mean? 50% of processes could be automated. Is that a bit like saying Stevenage Borough could win the Premier League? It's one of those where you have to look at the usefulness behind it, and how do you define which processes to automate and which not? And is there a danger because it's currently the done thing? It will reduce costs throughout my organization to actually rush it through without having those pre-defined and clear plans as to what you want the outcomes to be and how that's developing. So to start this journey, I'll go back to its definition. So the technique, method, or systems of operating to control processes by highly automatic means. But then this moves on to the reducing human intervention to a minimum. Now, interestingly, there are a large number of definitions, and the scaremongering within the press tends to focus on the reducing of human intervention. But this isn't the case. Automation to support lean business or any business strategy isn't about reducing human intervention to a minimum. It's about enabling a task, a project, communication to happen in the best, most efficient way. So what you can do? So then you've got your terminology of your broadcasting and what people tend to feel gives them power over others. And this can often be confusing and the people like to think of it as a knowledge indicator. So robot process automation, RPA, in principle, is exactly the same as business process automation, in the sense that it enables people to complete a task with less manual or repetitive work. And what makes RPA different is that it contains software or robots that can imitate some of these tasks. And then we go on to lean operations. And automation shouldn't be confused with lean operations. Lean operations is designing to reduce waste in a business process and organization. And integrating concepts together to deliver operations. A likely outcome is reduced need for cash, fewer errors, higher quality products, a better customer experience, like faster delivery to customers. So a lean operation, if you go back about 60 years, the first cash point is an example of a lean operation. No longer did you have to go into a bank to get some money, because that actually is a transactional activity. You go and you get the job done as quickly because you go to a cash machine and you take your money out. There's no need for that human interaction. So what you've done there is you've reduced the amount of errors. You've reduced the need for that interaction because it's not there. And actually, the experience is far better for the customer. The automation aspect of lean operations should be viewed as an enabler, not the be-all and end-all. But there is another very, very important aspect of lean operation, and that is the individuals and your employees who actually end up doing the majority of the delivery. And we've all seen this. So kind of the problem, trying to read a map. We've had this for years, kind of the errors that there are. And again, with car building, a mass demand. So what was the resolution? What was the automation? We had sat-nav or we had robots to come in. But then again, you see the link. What is the link? The individual inputs the destination. And what that's doing is enabling you to kind of get from business point A to B with increased productivity, because the drivers aren't potentially getting lost, kind of potentially avoiding traffic, kind of not necessarily sure if that is always the case. And with car production, demand soared, so the cost of cars would have been kind of unassailable unless there was a more efficient way of mass production. And because of the high kind of cost of this mass in production, you wouldn't necessarily consider this a lean model in today's terms, because change is very slow. You design the shape of a car and it's in there then for 8 to 12 years and then it changes again. But then you can see kind of to get the quality, to get that craftsmanship, to deliver that kind of that next level on from the mass, it's human crafted. So I think these are very important aspects to look at when looking at your organization of, see, what are those aspects? What are those bits that are helping us to move forward? What are those bits that are helping us to take away the potential of human error, but actually enable the delivery of efficiency and deliver that quality and deliver that customer experience? Another example of you would call it early stage automation in an area that kind of within this conference we'll all have very good knowledge about is an IVR. What was the original problem? The original problem, it used to call, and it either used to go into a reception team who would then deliver it, but there was no kind of passing around. There was no kind of, it would go into a mass bank of phones and someone would pick it up. So then you look at your operations and you think, well, actually, how can we make this better? So you get the evolution where you have more phones in an office so that when one is engaged, it's passed to another. And then you start to apply kind of the automation. So actually, I'm delivering that self-serve. So rather than coming in to ask an individual, I would like to go and speak to the repairs department, actually, you've taken away that step because someone is picking that next step. They're picking where they want to go. So enabling that self-serve is enabling kind of the decision to be made outside of the organization. So you're automating that choice before it comes in, which is increasing efficiency. And if you look kind of at the next step now, the taking payments, the doing kind of identity and verification. Okay. How do you now reduce that call length? How do you collect data before it even gets to an individual or an agent? Again, these are all aspects that are building and building on how to increase that efficiency. But then, what about your digital communication? So for 20 odd years, we've had IVRs going through, and they've improved and improved and improved. But kind of your digital communication, in some ways, is still handled in that kind of mass pool, which is you have a specific number for a specific department. So departments are handling digital communications based on the platform, not the content. So I'm unable to deliver a first contact resolution because actually I've had a question or an information request, and it's nothing to do with the job that I do. And then what you get is what I'd like to call, and people I've spoken to before here, the Chuckle Brothers effect, where it goes round and it goes from me to you, you to me, and actually there's no value being added there. There's no there's no kind of aspect there. So kind of that's where your problem is. But now kind of you have that opportunity, similarly to how you've done the IVR, to actually deliver design thinking across your digital communications. Kind of, will your users or customers get the same experience, or the experience that you've identified you want them to have, similarly to how you've identified that IVR, when they use social media, or when they use an email, or when they use WhatsApp or SMS? Have you enabled the ability for self-serve across channels? Similarly to how you have done with an IVR, with automated payment collection, with doing the ID&V? Or kind of, have you looked at examples like chatbots, if you have one, and can they access your knowledge base to answer those frequently asked questions? Or actually, are they just in there to collect data? And one of the key aspects is, are you directing individuals or the communication to the right place? And does that direction enable an agent or an individual to resolve a query at first contact? Or, as many, does the content of the communication not matter, and you're not utilizing that information that you've already had to actually get that communication to where it needs to go? So let's take a look at the numbers. And as we can see, it's kind of, this is happening. So as I said at the beginning, kind of, are you just looking to automate because it's going? And kind of, this isn't a time to be an ostrich and stick your head in the sand saying it's all going to pass, because actually the evolving of how we're working has happened. Kind of, it's not going to go back to how it was. So actually, now's a fantastic time to grasp what you're able to do and actually start with a relatively clean sheet, because we haven't been through this before. And then you've got, on the flip side, so you think, right, I've got this fantastic plan. We're going to automate loads. We're going to collect loads of data. But actually, have you thought about the unintended consequences? So IoT, for example, they're kind of, within the next 6 months, there's going to be more IoT devices than people on the planet. So kind of, what unintended consequences do they have? Yes, they deliver some fantastic service. So they can catch things before even a person knows they're happening. They can collect that data for you. But actually, if you then look at it, that's then megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes worth of data that you're now receiving. So kind of, what are you then going to do with it? So you've got all of this data, which is fantastic, because it means that you know exactly what's going on. But actually, if you then look at it closely, what is actionable? So what do you need to do something with, and what actually can you store, because it's good for compliance, it's good to have that, and it's good for potentially reviewing to look at certain kind of flows and kind of looking at the raw data across periods of time to see if there is any kind of change. But quite often, out of that gigabytes and terabytes of data that you're getting, a very small percentage actually needs that action. So if we take emergency lighting tests, for example, kind of relative to some of the audience, not relative to others. But so this is a test where it works or it doesn't, or there's kind of the wattage is dropping, so you need to be aware. Well, if it's working, there's no action on it because it's working. But currently, kind of without the IoT device, you're already doing that, because someone's going out to check it every other day. So they go and check all the emergency lights that you have in your estate. So the idea behind the IoT is now actually you can focus that. So you don't need to know about the ones that are working. What you want to do is focus on those ones that aren't working. So now you're sending your repairs person to the third light down on the second floor of the fifth building, because that's the one that needs changing. And that is how you're enabling that. So the rest of the white noise is kind of isn't affecting the choices that you are making, isn't affecting those actions. And what you're doing is, rather than having a team of analysts scouring through the data, you're passing the action that needs to go to a team or an individual to enable them to resolve that situation at first contact. And actually, the link between automation, personalization, self-serve, and agent actions is actually a continuous loop. Because if I'm kind of, a user should always be able to speak to an agent if they get caught in a loop or if they're not enjoying the experience. An agent should be able to support an individual to self-serve, improving the user's knowledge, giving the ability to complete the task themselves next time and forever onwards. It reminds me of to give someone a fish, they'll eat for a day, teach them to fish, they'll eat for a lifetime. Well, it's the same process. Give someone the knowledge, give someone the empowerment to be able to do what doesn't need that interaction, which is a transactional activity, and now do it. And that frees up the time for an agent to be able to support those that can't, to work on the cases that are more in depth and need more work kind of actioning on. So what you see there is this kind of figure of eight, which is kind of bringing it together. And kind of the principle is the same with the kind of the enabler and empowerment through automation, and delivering the businesses to reap the rewards and the benefits. But if you are kind of putting in these strategies, remember that one of your key aspects is still a person being able to speak to a person. And there's also the fear. Again, I'll go back to the media speculation. It's the unknown. It's going to replace the kind of you can hear the talk across a contact center or kind of within an organization. They're automating. We're all going to lose our jobs. La, la, la. Well, actually, the closest that most businesses will get is a chatbot. And actually, if you remember, one of the earliest chatbots was Clippy, and it was kind of annoying. It never really they hadn't really thought about the user experience of it, but it wasn't scary. It didn't take away anyone's jobs. But what it was doing was enabling you, if you didn't know what you were doing or if you were stuck somewhere, to complete that task yourself. And that should always be in the back of your mind. And to me, this is the kind of out of everything you're talking about, the human side of automation is kind of the most important aspect to think about when you're looking at what you're trying to change. Again, it's not about taking away jobs. It's about kind of looking at those transactional and menial tasks that you can remove to make people's lives better, to increase the engagement of your employees. We heard from Sunspot yesterday, and this has helped them to kind of deliver a better service. They haven't tried to kind of do anything revolutionary necessarily, but by taking little chunks and empowering their employees and looking at what their customer experience is, this is what they have enabled them to kind of to embrace what is happening now. And don't be afraid to ask yourselves the difficult questions about your organization, how it works, kind of we are experiencing a situation like no other, and no one has experienced it before. So let's take the opportunity to start from a clean slate, without any baggage, as the new and ever-changing normal is here to stay. And this is what can help your organization stay too. And again, focus on the how, the focus on those high-value areas. By encouraging self-serve and by taking away those menial tasks, you're increasing the productivity you can increase the productivity of your employees. And again, you can look at that channel. You can look at where you're going. And again, it's all about enablement. So, kind of, you've got the routing. So here again, kind of, what are your thoughts? Kind of emails, routing via content. Create tickets, move to productivity rather than person-led completion of tasks. Think about all of the channels that you've got. How can we route them? Actually, because kind of you can have different styles. A Facebook conversation is going to be very different to an email conversation. But at least you can deliver that experience that you're looking to do. You can then add in things like kind of gamification rewards. Because you've now changed to that productivity model, you can now look at how you can really engage your employees and actually increase their productivity. But kind of, you've got to think of those steps first. What's the transactional? What can be done self-serve? What do we really, really want our employees to do and be there to deliver? And we can see the results of some of the work that we've been doing over the last 6 months. But you can see here, they're very different use cases. And this is the thing, kind of one automation or one change is not the same for every business. The FAQs, kind of similar to the robots in the car manufacturing. It was to deliver quantity. It was to answer questions from a large number of inquiries. But what it made them to do is able then, if someone then came back for that second stage, they were able then to add that personalization. So it's the car journey again. High demand, kind of add the robot in there or the automation in there to take away a large chunk of that demand and give someone the knowledge they need, and then have the person there to deliver that quality or that next step. Again, kind of the channel shift. Be demographic specific. Kind of the university. Kids don't want to talk to people on the phone anymore. So how can you utilize other channels to develop that? And self-serve. The ease of how can your organization change, as we've helped organizations change quickly and speedily with some of the biggest changes that we've experienced kind of in the world. And then you also look at, it's not just digital. You look at the phone. You can do the ID and V on the phone now. And again, it's about saving those. David Brailsford talks about kind of continuous improvement. Because if you go into a corner on a cycle track 1% faster, you come out 3% faster. And again, this is the same. You save seconds. The seconds add up to minutes. The minutes add up to hours. The hours add up to days. And that's where you can start to really see the impact. So you can dip your toe in. It's not about kind of trying to look at the entire business and do it all at once. Take those areas. Take those areas where actually you've talked with your employees and you've got someone who is, I take this offline, I do it on a spreadsheet, and then I reload the data on because that's the easiest way to do it. Well, actually, that's a danger to your business. And look at how the process is working and how you can change that and what can be put in there to support that employee to actually deliver a better service and not be kind of become that center of excellence that if they go, no one knows how to do Sue's secret spreadsheet, which means that you get the answers that you need. The government, again, you can see recently, there's just kind of how spreadsheets can actually not necessarily deliver what you need to, and there can be errors in there. So to kind of have a look at this and have a look at how you can dip your toe in to start that change. So then you've got your takeaways. It's there to support. Engage your employees. There are any unintended consequences. You'll spot some, you won't spot others until you've already implemented systems. But be ready for them and be ready actually of how you can utilize them and kind of make that change because it's a continuous improvement process. Can a customer escape or reject or actually talk to a human because that's what they want to do? And and focus on the outcomes, focus on the change, because again, as I say earlier, a small change can have that continuous knock-on impact and can keep your business moving forward and continually improving. I think Jonathan will jump back on in a moment. If anyone's got any questions. There we go.
Thank you very much, Gil. So, yeah, if you've got any questions for Gil, please do answer them in the chat, and then we can answer them accordingly.
And yeah, just while they're doing that, if anyone kind of is interested in seeing some of the what we've delivered or some of the tools that we've got to kind of support this change, then drop us a note or kind of pop into the Britannic booth and we can have a conversation.
Okay, we've got James Crawford has put a big message in, so I'm going to read it out as Lean is fundamentally about delivering the maximum value to customers in the way they want it at speed. They want it at the speed they want it. In reality, customers are often frustrated by IVR and then poor experience of poor quality of music on hold. What's your advice about how to implement IVR for the best possible customer experience rather than just for convenience of the supplier?
I think you have to go back to looking at the outcome that you're looking to achieve from that IVR. So again, we're talking to someone at the moment where they've realised that actually they can promote that self-serve kind of during the IVR journey by, if someone's phoning on a mobile phone, sending a text message out. So actually they can text them, and then they're putting the power back in to the person's journey. So I think you have to go back, and it's the same with mapping out whether it's an IVR or whether it's your digital channel communication. Kind of, what do you want the outcome to be? What do you want the customer experience to be? And then really start to go back and then look at actually the tools that are available. The art of the possible in the last 3 or 4 months is totally different to what it was the 3 or 4 months beforehand. But kind of, so I think it's that constant review. It's that constant kind of striving for small improvements. Review where people are getting stuck. Review where the frustrations are coming. And then kind of go back and challenge kind of the design of it and challenge kind of where you want the outcome to be different, or what you want the experience to be for the customer and for the agent when that customer gets through to the agent.
And again, I think that's really important. You know, we've done a lot of work with IVR with customers, so it's important to look at the design. It's important to look at obviously what's efficient for the customer and what's efficient for the business. This is about reducing effort and but also applying appropriate routing. So it's building in efficiency whilst reducing effort. So those two areas need to be considered. It's important to experience it yourself as well. So test and test again. So again, we've worked with customers looking at the journey that they want to deliver and making sure the suitable testing, and then moving forward, understand the voice of the customer. So what is the experience that they're receiving and they're going through? Where are the stress points, and how can those be addressed? We've got some great examples and success stories about successfully streamlining with IVR, including automated processes. So it's got a great use case, but invariably we've all experienced the poorly designed IVRs where we get lost and in loops, and there's lots of different menu options. So I think it probably comes back to some of the things that we've heard about earlier on about a design thinking approach and designing the journey appropriately, and ultimately technology is there to guide the path for people. Okay, if you've got any more questions, please do add them. Got a comment from Tony Oliver. So I think the challenge is not the businesses but the customers. So many just like talking. So I don't know if you had anything you want to add to that comment, Gil?
I think that's a demographic approach. I think it's also kind of Do they have the knowledge that they don't have to talk? Yes, kind of. I'm almost kind of the antithesis of what I talk about, because quite often, if I want to get something done with an organisation, I will phone them. But kind of, is that because I haven't been able to find what I need to? So I've gone onto your website and I haven't got the solution. Again, you're right. It's that design thinking approach. Is if people are talking, what is the subject they're talking about? Why are they feeling like they have to? And what's the demographic? You're always going to get a certain demographic who will pick up the phone. But as we've just done with a university, they're realizing that actually the new demographic that's coming through for them that wants to engage with them don't want to use the phone, and they do. They don't want to talk to you on it. What they want to do is message you on it, or they want to kind of interact using their thumbs rather than their voices. So I think it is that design thinking. There must be a reason why people are phoning. And the reason of using a chatbot on your website actually should be able for you to find out why people aren't able to find the answer to their question easily. And that's the same. Kind of, if people are phoning, they can't find the answer to the question easily. Or they have a problem, and because you've removed that transactional activity, actually your agents now have time to talk to that person and impart, as I say earlier, impart that knowledge, support them with that self-serve. You look at kind of WebRTC or kind of video support, you can start to kind of teach your kind of customers and users how they are able to self-serve themselves and where they can find information. And it goes back to that. If they have the knowledge and they're empowered to, they will do.
Yeah, and I think, just finally before we wrap up, it's important to accommodate choice, right? It's people, of course, different importance and urgency of inquiry. If it's high importance and high urgency, they're probably going to want to pick the phone up and talk to someone. If it's complex and they need to solve a problem, they're probably going to want to talk to someone. So it's about providing choice, providing options, and then being in a position where, as an organization, you can bring all those different channels into a single point, and you can efficiently manage the interactions and fulfillment. So, of course, we like talking. Customers like talking, and different demographics prefer talking over digital. But we know there's a wave of digital demand. We're seeing it. We're delivering it. So I think really those two areas work hand in hand. Okay, so thank you very much, Gil. That concludes that presentation. We've got the next one starting at 25 to 11. So thank you very much. We'll see you again shortly.
Thank you.